favorite picks, your favorite teams, and it's your turn.
Offensive throw! Oh my goodness!
Our experts lay out each team's power move. Who is too good to pass up?
Are you kidding me?
Inside the Association Mock Draft Special.
Welcome to the Inside the Association Mock Draft Special. I am Dave Ross. He is Cameron Smith, and I know you've been ready for this day for a long time. How excited are you?
Dave, you know me. I'm ready for this, to see these young men trying to achieve their dreams of transitioning to the NBA. We could see some potential NBA future stars.
Yeah, cannot wait to figure out who you're going to take. And over the next hour, we're going to get you all ready for this NBA draft. We're going to go all over the country to preview each team in the lottery and make picks for all 14 franchises. Now, there will be no trades in our draft, so each team will be forced to pick in the slot that they've landed. That doesn't mean we won't talk about potential trades that could happen. Cam, we're going to have a whole lot of fun this hour, but we need a little bit of help. We're going to get that help right now from our guy, Jeff Goodman, who I know is also very excited for this NBA draft. Jeff, first of all, I know you've been putting this draft together for quite some time. How good is this draft and how deep is it?
No, it's really deep. That's the strength of this year's draft. If you're Gerson Rosas picking number one for the Minnesota Timberwolves, you've got a dilemma here. The top of the draft, not nearly as strong as it's been in recent years. But overall, the depth of this draft, that's what makes it attractive to so many NBA general managers.
Now, obviously, last year, Zion was the easy pick. He was the slam dunk pick. Everybody was excited about him. There doesn't appear to be that guy in this draft. But, Jeff, give me a guy that could be a breakout star.
Well, listen, we'll start with LaMelo Ball. I've seen him play since he was a freshman at high school. I went to Lithuania to watch him play professionally. He's come a long way since then. His defense still needs work. His shot still needs work. But what he does have is something that you just can't teach, and that's the same thing that his oldest brother Lonzo has. Innate passing ability and court vision. The shot will get better. Hopefully he'll be at a place where they can teach him how to defend, but ultimately his ceiling is incredibly high because he's 6'7", with that type of passing ability and court vision.
Jeff, all I know is you're also very big in Lithuania and also big right here in the United States. Don't go anywhere. Much more with you throughout this show. The Timberwolves are picking first overall in the NBA draft for the second time in franchise history. The team took Karl Anthony Towns with the top pick back in 2015. Now, Minnesota traded for Towns' good buddy D'Angelo Russell this past February, and the numbers after the deal, not so good. 4-10 with a defensive rating north of 117 and a net rating of negative 5.3 points per 100 possessions. To take a closer look at what the T-Wolves might do at number one, he is our NBA insider and a man that's more connected than anybody in the association. Shams Charania, always great to catch up with you, my friend. Let's talk about the T-Wolves at one. What are you hearing about the possibilities of what they might do with this pick?
So, Dave, the Timberwolves are really looking in three different directions with this number one overall pick. The first being potentially moving it for star players such as Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, someone along those lines, I'm told. But again, the feasibility of that is unknown. Bradley Beal is content in Washington right now. Devin Booker is content in Phoenix. So the feasibility of actually moving that number one pick for a player that deserves it looks unlikely. The second route is really focusing on two guys, Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball, and seeing if either of those two will be a fit. And really third, potentially moving down, going to a pick like number 6 in Atlanta, and focusing on a guy like Tyrese Halliburton at 6. And so the possibilities could be endless with Minnesota at number one.
Yeah, Shams, I know your phone's going to be off the hook here. What are you hearing? Do you anticipate a lot of draft day trades as we normally see? Is it going to be a higher volume than normal or less than the average?
I do expect there to be a ton of movement because these teams, GMs, executives have been sitting on their hands for really the entire year. And so to now finally be able to have a window to make trades, make moves to better their teams, I think these guys are going to be active. I think there will be a flurry of moves on draft night, around draft night, and into free agency as well.
The hardest working man in basketball, Shams Charania. Always a pleasure to catch up, my friend. Appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, Cam, you've heard the analysis of Shams and what the T-Wolves might do with that number one pick. Now, remember, you can't trade, so you got to make the pick at number one. Who you taking?
Well, let me throw on my Gerson Rosas jacket right
Okay.
now, the president of basketball ops for the Timberwolves. And if I'm Gerson, I am going with Anthony Edwards with that #1 pick, because you're talking about a guy that's one of the best, if not the best scorers in the draft, especially at that guard position. He's built like a grown man, 6'5", only 19 years old. And this is a guy that can get to the bucket in a hurry, especially in transition. You match him with D'Angelo Russell in the backcourt, you have a problem for a lot of opposing teams. And don't forget, Karl Anthony Towns is on the low block and also can stretch things out with the shot. So this is a group that could be a nasty three-headed monster given some time and the experience together.
All right, Jeff Goodman, what do you think of Cam's pick there as a GM?
You know, I don't love it, but I don't love any of them at this point. You know, Anthony Edwards shot 40% from the field, 29% from three, and his team absolutely stunk last year as a freshman at Georgia. Now, having said that, I don't love LaMelo Ball, but I would take him #1.
All right, very interesting. But the #1 pick is in the books for the T-Wolves. So says GM Cameron Smith. When you look at the Golden State Warriors in the Steve Kerr era, this past season is definitely the outlier. After 5 straight trips to the NBA Finals, the Warriors were decimated by injuries. In this past season, they stumbled to a league-worst 15-50 record and didn't even qualify for the bubble. They get the #2 pick in this year's lottery. Should they keep it? Well, we asked Doug Gottlieb.
This is a team that is in championship mode. They basically took a year off, and now they're preparing to try and fix their roster as they fix their bodies. And they've had the longest offseason in the history of basketball. They want to win and win now. And with this draft class specifically, and more likely draft classes to come, they're so young that they're not really going to help you compete at the end of this NBA season. So, yeah, you consider, and there's no surefire #1 pick. There's no surefire #2 pick. You consider all possibilities. And if trading down or trading out of the first round of the NBA draft helps you, so be it. I think there's some players that would fit their culture and fit their program, but I would definitely consider trading down at least first, trading out secondly, and making the pick third. Depends on how strong your convictions are on the draft board.
All right, gentlemen, you heard Doug Gottlieb, squarely on the fence here for this second pick. Now, Jeff Goodman, you cannot trade again. You've got to draft #2. If you're Bob Myers, who are you taking?
I think it's a complete no-brainer for Bob Myers. You got to take James Wiseman. 7'1", runs the court so well. You got Steph, you got Clay back, you got Draymond, you got Andrew Wiggins. Listen, James Wiseman, what he can do, run the court extremely well, finish, block shots, alter shots. He's going to get better on the offensive end, but they don't need him to score with all that firepower. So James Wiseman, to me, the absolute no-brainer here.
I absolutely love it. There is no hedging there from our own Jeff Goodman. He's off the fence. James Wiseman goes to Golden State at #2. While the Warriors are in the lottery for the very first time under Steve Kerr, the Hornets find themselves in very familiar territory. Charlotte has missed the playoffs in each of the last 4 seasons, and after losing Kemba Walker to Boston, the Hornets won just 23 games. But each of their top 4 leading scorers is 26 or younger, so there's plenty of room to grow. Here's Hornets legend Del Curry on what Charlotte is expecting out of the player that goes #3.
You're fortunate to have that #3 pick, and hopefully you get a guy that can come in and make an impact and influence on your team right away. He's going to have to earn his minutes. James Borrego has really made a big influence in that locker room. We have a young team, but the locker room is steady, solid. A lot of guys who are play well beyond their years and know how to prepare themselves night in and night out to play the game. The young guys want to continue with their career, get better. So the young guy at the 3rd pick is going to have to come in and earn his minutes. But he's going to be in a scenario where guys will help him. Hopefully he can come in and make an influence, like I said, and be a productive player. With the scenario with the NBA this year, he's going to have to hit the ground running and kind of soak up everything in a short period of time. But hopefully he's doing his homework right now, whoever that #3 pick is, on the teams that he may be selected to, so he can get somewhat of an advanced scouting of the team that he's going to enter. But hopefully he can come in, earn his minutes, make the team better, while learning the league, the players, and everything that the NBA is about.
All right, gentlemen, so you hear from the great Del Curry. He basically says you got to earn that playing spot, whoever is drafted at 3. Cam, you're on the clock. Who's the third pick in the NBA draft?
Well, Dale Curry is right. You got to earn that spot. And LaMelo Ball earns that spot for the Charlotte Hornets. This is a guy at 6'7" that is totally gifted with the basketball in his hands, whether it's scoring, but especially passing the ball. And you talk about guards like Terry Rozier and also Devontae Graham on that team. They can play together in the backcourt, have LaMelo with the basketball or on the wing. They'll be able to complement each other nicely. Small sample size in his time in Australia in the NBL, but this is a guy that is tailor-made for the NBA game.
And we know Jeff Goodman's liked him ever since he was 14. I think Charlotte's going to like him. LaMelo Ball going to Charlotte at number 3 overall. All right, 3 picks down into this Inside the Association mock draft special. Here's who's been picked so far. Chicago Bulls, you are on the clock. But first, we've got to take a quick timeout. There's still plenty of talented point guards left in this class. Who's the next one to come off the board? Find out when you come back with us in just a minute. Welcome back to the Inside the Association mock draft special. Let's take a look at who's off the board. Anthony Edwards goes as the top pick to Minnesota, followed by James Wiseman. He goes to the Warriors at 2. LaMelo Ball goes number 3 to the Charlotte Hornets. That means the Chicago Bulls are on the clock, and for the first time since 2016, Chicago will not be getting the 7th overall pick when draft night is over. The Bulls acquired Lauri Markkanen in the Jimmy Butler trade 3 years ago. In the last 2 years, they took Wendell Carter Jr. and Kobe White at number 7. The Bulls earned the 4th pick in the lottery this year. So now we bring back our panel. Cameron Smith, Jeff Goodman. Jeff is on the clock right now for this 4th overall pick. The Bulls are so glad they're not drafting 7th. Who are they taking at 4?
Well, listen, new GM Arturas Karnisovas has an easy decision here, in my opinion. Obi Toppin, National Player of the Year at Dayton. Big, strong, athletic 4-man. He could play some small ball 5. He works well with Markkanen, with Wendell Carter. They're not great athletes. Toppin is. And the other connection here, he played for Anthony Grant, who, oh, by the way, coached with new coach Billy Donovan, both at Florida and in Oklahoma City. So this one makes all the sense in the world.
An easy pick, so says Jeff Goodman. Obi Toppin going 4 to Chicago. Let's keep it in the Central Division and go east to Cleveland, where the Cavaliers have gone from the mountaintop with LeBron to the lottery after King James left for L.A. Now the Cavs have won 19 games each of the last 2 seasons, and Ty Lue, Larry Drew, and John Beilein and J.B. Bickerstaff have all spent time as the team's head coach. For a closer look at the Cavaliers, we welcome in Angel Gray. She covers the Cavs on the sidelines in Cleveland. And Angel, look, when you have a 19-win team from a year ago, obviously there are a lot of holes to fill. But which do you believe is the biggest draft need that they have in 2020?
I tell you what, just speaking with Kobe Altman, the GM for the team, there's an understanding of just building the culture for this team and understanding what's most important to just progressing so they can become that playoff team. This is a young group that's paired a lot with nice veterans, obviously veterans such as Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love that have that championship under their belt, so they know what it takes to win. But when you're adding along a Colin Sexton, Kevin Porter Jr., and seeing how Darius Garland comes along in his second year, the biggest thing for them is experience and understanding what it takes to win. But more importantly, if you're looking at the numbers, they want to improve on the defensive end. I think they had their 29th in defensive rating. And on the flip side, you're also looking at how they can get better offensively. They have the pieces, but you want to be better than 24th in assists. So just putting the two sides together and understanding how they can continue to work together. Everyone wasn't together the entire season. So when you have, the vets trying to get along with the rookies as well, it takes time for that, experience, especially in the locker room, to gel. But I think towards the end of the season, you saw that this team could be very, very dangerous. They're just looking for that 1 or 2 pieces, but more than anything, the experience.
You mentioned it, J.B. Bickerstaff. That's going to be his job to figure out how to congeal that young and old there. What is his biggest challenge going into year 1 as the full-time head coach?
I think what you saw from him, especially after the break, he went 5-6 with this team. The biggest challenge for him is just being able to put his system in place. And I think he has a trust from the front office, and they've been, going on trips together with one another just to see what they need for this team going forward. You can see how they're rallying behind him as far as making sure they understand the important part for him is the defensive side. He is a defensive coach, so he knows they have to be better in that department. So you're seeing them getting back, seeing what they can do in transition defense. That's something they were holding each other accountable for, towards the end of the season. So if there's anything that he wants to do, just speaking with him, it's improve on that end, but also just bring along these young guards. It's going to be special. The Cavs had their own little bubble in Cleveland. And the person that they were really excited about was Darius Garland and what he was able to do, especially only playing 5 games in college, then having to transition. Wasn't 100%, but now that he is 100% now, they're just really excited about getting him back on the floor.
All right, should be an exciting time in Cleveland. Angel Gray, we appreciate the time and the information. We'll catch up again soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, gentlemen, that's some very good information from Angel Gray. So, Cameron Smith, you are now on the clock. Who should the Cavs take?
Well, the Cavs have a lot of holes to fill, Dave, but I think they go with the best international prospect in this draft, and that is none other than Denny Avdia, the young guy from Maccabi Tel Aviv. This is a guy that didn't get as many minutes and didn't have as much production on the stat sheet, but this is a young man that can stretch the floor, given his size at 6'9", can handle the basketball, and also pass that basketball, too. So you give him some options with that Cleveland team. You have Darius Garland, Colin Sexton in that backcourt. You want to be able to get a little bit bigger, more versatile with wings that can attack the rim.
And you think he fits in with that backcourt?
I think he can fit in with that backcourt because he won't have as much pressure when it comes to handling the basketball and initiating offense.
All right, very good. Now, Jeff, when you hear that and you see the top 5 players now off the board, looking deeper into this draft, give me some guys that still have value as we get into the 6 picks and beyond.
I love Isaac Okoro. Played at Auburn, is the best defender, the most versatile defender in this draft, and a guy who's going to work to get his shot better. But he's a guy that can really make people better passing the basketball. He can do a lot of different things, and as long as his perimeter shot becomes above average, he's going to be a 10-year starter in this league.
All right, Cam, same question to you. Who's got the highest ceiling remaining in this draft?
I think it's Patrick Williams, the young guy from Florida State. This is a young man that is really, in my opinion, a clone of Kawhi Leonard when you think about how he's able to get to his spot scoring that basketball. He was getting minutes in a veteran-led Florida State team, and you see the explosion right there. He can get it done, so that's the guy for me.
You mentioned Kawhi Leonard. You get me, the antenna goes up there. That's excitement. All right, the top 5 picks, though, are officially off the board. Let's move to the number 6 team on the board, the Atlanta Hawks. They're no stranger to the lottery, and Atlanta has some young studs to show for it. Trae Young led all players 22 or younger in scoring last season, followed by the player he was traded for 2 draft nights ago, Luka Doncic. 5th overall on that list is Hawks big man, John Collins. To take a closer look at the Atlanta Hawks, it is a real pleasure to welcome NBA Hall of Famer, the human highlight reel himself, Dominique Wilkins, to the program. And Dominique, when you look at the Atlanta Hawks here, obviously a very young team, who do you think might be the right fit to join this young nucleus?
Well, I hadn't had a chance to see a lot of these guys, because of, under the circumstances of the COVID problem, so they haven't had a chance to really put eyeballs on a lot of these guys like our GM Travis and ownership has been able to do. So, Travis going to put the right pieces with these young guys. You have John Collins and Trae Young and Cam Reddish and Hunter, those guys, the core group of guys on our team. So just to add pieces to what we already have, because the ultimate goal for us is to be in the playoffs. And our ownership want to see this team win and win on a major level.
Now, Dominic, this team can score. Maybe defending has been a problem. How do they get better maybe in this draft? Do they look that way, do you think?
Well, they're always stressing defense. Coach, he wants these guys to defend because when you play good defense, it translates to good early offense, and you get easy buckets, easy possessions. And bringing a guy in like Nate McMillan, who is a defensive coach, a part of that staff, definitely will help.
All right, Dominique Wilkins, the best in-game dunker I've ever seen. We appreciate the time and the information.
No, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, gentlemen, the ATL is officially on the clock. This is a very young, exciting team. So, Jeff Goodman, who are you pairing with this new nucleus at number 6?
Listen, the biggest need for Atlanta for me is inside presence. And Onyeka Okongwu was a guy who played high school ball at Chino Hills. If that sounds familiar, that's where the Ball family came from. He's played in the shadow his entire life, but now he's stepped out this past year as a freshman at USC. Was terrific, as you see here in the post, can really score knows his role, needs to expand his range, but I think he'll be great alongside John Collins in Atlanta. You don't have to run a lot of plays for him. He does all the dirty work. He blocks shots. He rebounds. He can score around the basket.
Jeff, I know it's definitely difficult, I think, to kind of look ahead, but right now, can he step in as a young kid and be a rim protector tomorrow in the NBA?
Yeah, he's only about 6'10", but again, he's long, and what he is active, and he's smart. He'll be in the right spots, makes the right rotations, so you can put him in immediately because he's got an NBA-ready body and the IQ, the court IQ to go along with it.
All right, looks like the ATL got some more talent. That team is young, and they're getting better and better. All right, guys, we are 6 picks into this Inside the Association mock draft special. You see the top 6 names on the board. Now they're all off the board. But we've got so much more coming up, including Patrick Williams and Devin Vassell, a couple of Florida State guys that are very impressive prospects and still on the board. Who's in need of a Seminole? Find out when we come back. Welcome back to the Inside the Association mock draft special. Here's how the draft has gone so far. You can see the top 6 picks on the board right now. Maybe the most intriguing of them all, number 3, LaMelo Ball to Charlotte. We'll see how those top 6 pan out. And right now, the Pistons are on the clock. Now, Dwayne Casey won just 20 games in his second season in the Motor City, and his team played very slowly. The Pistons averaged the 3rd fewest possessions per 48 minutes in the NBA last year, playing faster than only the Hornets and the Nuggets. Here's former Piston Greg Kelser on what the team is looking for at number 7.
With the number 7 pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Pistons will be looking for an athlete. They'll be looking for someone skilled, someone that can hopefully come in and begin contributing right away. This is a young basketball team, so whoever they pick in that slot is going to have every opportunity to get going early, to hit the ground running, to have playing time that probably would not be as apparent if they were on some other team or a veteran-laden team, a team that's on the brink of winning a championship. This is a situation where the young man will come in and get an opportunity to perhaps start. What will they be looking for? Well, again, the 3 slot would be another area of need. The Pistons also have to get a little bit stronger and broader along their front line. So that also would be a key ingredient to look for. And someone that can hit the outside shot, because if you look at the NBA right now, you got to be able to hit the outside shot. And when I say outside, I mean beyond the arc. Got to be able to mix all those things and also be good near the basket. So it's not like they're picking the number 1 or number 2 pick where you could just say, okay, but that's going to be the pick. When you get down to 7, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. But again, I think the draft is deep enough, is good enough, sound enough that they will be able to net a very good player, good young player with a bright future.
All right, gentlemen, clearly there are a lot of needs there in Detroit for the Pistons, according to Greg. Cam, let me ask you, at number 7, who do you think is the right fit and the right pick for this team?
Yeah, we talk about the holes that the Pistons have to fill, similar to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think they fill the spot with Isaac Okoro, the freshman that came out of Auburn that led that team in scoring. So, Jeff, I'm taking him off of that best available outside of the top 5. He's going to be a Detroit Piston, but this is a young man, again, physically gifted, very tough, and will be able to bring some defensive intensity, which the Pistons lacked last season. So GM Troy Weaver, with his first experience as GM in Detroit, is going to pick up Isaac Okoro.
All right, very quickly here, Cam, when you make this pick, is this also partially that you don't trust that Blake Griffin can stay healthy anymore?
Yeah, that's a big part of it as well. You want to look to the future, and that's why they're going to make this pick with Isaac Okoro.
All right, let's see how it works out in Detroit. Next up, the New York Knicks. Now, this team has been a punchline quite often under the ownership of one James Dolan. In the last 5 years, well, they've been awful. The Knicks trail only the Suns when it comes to the worst winning percentage in the NBA during that time. So now, new team president Leon Rose and new head coach Tom Thibodeau, well, they've got their work cut out for them. Here now to talk all things New York Knicks, he is Mark Stein, the longtime scribe for the New York Times, covering everything in the NBA. Mark, great to catch up with you. Let's talk about the Knicks, and obviously people in New York have been waiting for a change in the front office. What difference have you seen so far that they may make?
Well, look, I think to be fair, the jury is still very much out on Leon Rose. As a player agent, he accomplished a ton, but as a front office executive, the league is still learning about him. He's hired Tom Thibodeau, someone he has a long-term relationship with, so management and coach are going to be on the same page. But the Knicks, frankly, have been pretty much off the grid since the NBA shut down in March. They obviously weren't invited to the bubble, and we haven't really had a chance to see Leon Rose make substantive moves yet. So people are still very curious what kind of front office it's going to be.
Yeah, Mark, this might be a loaded question. We know they have a ton of holes here, but if you had to prioritize, what would be the biggest issue going into the draft?
They would love to be in the mix for LaMelo Ball, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say LaMelo Ball is not slipping to number 8, so that's not really an option. Let's be honest about the Knicks here. They need a bankable cornerstone player. You're realistically not going to get that at number 8 in what, by all accounts, is a draft very light on franchise talent. So the Knicks' objectives most likely are not going to be met in this draft unless some sort of trade materializes. But players like Halliburton, Toppin, Okoro, Killian Hayes, one of those 4 is most likely going to slip to 8. They're going to have a crack at one of those guys. But, being number 8 in this draft is not an enviable position.
No, not at all. Mark, look, we've been hearing it forever, right? It's the Mecca, it's Madison Square Garden, it's the Knicks. They have not been able to attract the big-time free agent. Is that going to change with the management change?
I still believe that there is some glitz and glamour and that there is some attraction to the Knicks. I don't believe that is completely extinguished, but as the Knicks stand right now, this is not a team ready to even fight for a playoff spot in the East. And it's not a fun place to lose. So it's going to be the Knicks have to be patient here. They have to build piece by piece. RJ Barrett had a rocky rookie season, but it's obviously way too early still to be making judgments on him. They're going to have to slowly establish themselves as a winner to entice free agents again. That's not going to happen this summer. It's probably not going to happen next summer. It's going to take some time. But I do still believe this is a marquee franchise and that there are players out there who would love to be part of the Knicks. It's just not going to happen right away in terms of difference makers.
Yeah, the long road back for the Knicks continues. Mark Stein, appreciate the time and the information.
You got it.
All right, maybe the understatement of the draft. The Knicks have a lot of work to do to be competitive. Jeff Goodman, I give you the task of number 8. How do you make the Knicks better with this pick?
Listen, if you're Leon Rose, you got to go point guard here. You got to, and you're reaching maybe a little bit, but you go Tyrese Halliburton out of Iowa State, a sophomore who really, really expanded his offensive game from his freshman to sophomore campaign. He can shoot the ball from the perimeter, terrific passer, high character kid. He needs to get stronger, but again, the Knicks point guard situation has been a complete disaster for years, and at least Halliburton gives him an opportunity to have a guy that can hopefully build around.
All right, the bright lights, the big city, Madison Square Garden. Let's see if the fit fits. So Tyrese Halliburton is off the board. Take a look at the big board, the top 8 picks in our Inside the Association mock draft. Very interesting names there, some really good shooters. And you wonder if Obi Toppin can become a scorer in Chicago. Next up, the Wizards are on the clock. So much more coming your way. Cole Anthony has been all over the draft board since he was in high school, but does that make him worthy of a lottery pick? Find out when you come back with us. Much more to get to on our Inside the Association mock draft special. Welcome back to the Inside the Association mock draft special. Here are the best players available after 8 picks, according to our very own front office insider and draft guru, Brandon Williams. Florida State wing Devin Vassell is at the top of the board, followed by Killian Hayes, Patrick Williams, Aaron Nesmith, and Sadiq Bey. The Washington Wizards are next on the clock at number 9. Kristen Peak covers the draft for Yahoo Sports, kind enough to join us now. Kristen, when you look at the needs that the Wizards have, what do you think are the biggest ones and maybe a pick that could fit those needs?
The biggest thing the Wizards needs is defense. I mean, they only won 32 games last year. They were the second worst defensive team in the NBA. So when you're looking at guys that are going to be there in the top 10 range, I think their number one choice will be Onyeka Okongwu out of USC. But that's a player that they'll probably have to trade up for. He's 6'9" with a 7'2" wingspan. He had 76 blocks in 1 year at USC and was a top 10 shot blocker in the nation. And when I talked to him this week, he told me that he thinks he's the best defender in this draft class. So that'll probably be their number one option. But Onyeka is also already met with the Cavs and the Hornets. So they would have to trade up for him. And the second option that I'm looking at is Auburn's wing, Isaac Okoro. He's a little bit smaller than Onyeka Okongwu at 6'6", but he has a 6'9" wingspan, can also defend the perimeter, positions 1 through 3, and he's a worker. You cannot get this player out of the gym. So I think he would be another great addition to the Wizards next year, coming in as a workaholic and, playing alongside someone like John Wall and Brad Beal.
All right, now, Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot. You can't trade up. You're at number 9. Who are you taking for the Wizards?
If Isaac Okoro is still there, I think they definitely take Isaac Okoro. If he is not there, then I think you're looking at players like Devin Vassell out of Florida State, who is 6'6", 6'10" wingspan, probably one of the best 3-and-D players in this draft class. Or if you want to go the guard route, you look at someone like Tyrese Halliburton out of Iowa State, another long guard at 6'6". He averaged 15 points and 6.5 assists at Iowa State and is a phenomenal playmaker.
All right, Chris, and I know they're excited in the district to find out who they get at 9. We appreciate the time and the information.
Anytime.
All right, back with Jeff Goodman and Cameron Smith. And Cam, I know in the district they're excited about this 9th pick. I'm assuming they're good at guard. Where are you going to go for the 9th pick for the Wizards?
I think they go with defensive help, and that's with Precious Achiuwa out of Memphis. This young man was the AAC Player of the Year and also Freshman of the Year. Because he averaged 15 points and 10 rebounds, he will bring them stability on the defensive end.
Now, when you make this pick, I'm assuming maybe you have a watchful eye on Rui Hachimura. Does this put him back in his proper position?
Yeah, speaking to my sources inside of that organization, Washington wants Rui Hachimura back to his natural position, which is on the wing. He was playing out of position last year, trying to defend the rim. You insert Achiuwa into that lineup, the Wizards can play a lot more small ball and get up and down a lot more.
Yeah, if they stay healthy, now you got guys in the right position, maybe things are looking up in the district. The Suns are on the clock at number 10. They probably wish they were still in the bubble. Phoenix was the only team to go 8-0 in the seeding games in Orlando, checking in with a massive net rating of nearly plus 13. So what do the Suns need at number 10? Here's TV analyst Eddie Johnson.
Expectations for 2021, make the playoffs, man. We're tired. We want to make the playoffs. It's been a long time. 10 or 11 years? I forgot to count now. And so the fans know this, the organization knows it, and most importantly, the players. They want to taste the playoffs, man. They want to know what it's like to play in the postseason. And in order to do that, you got to stay healthy, you got to stay committed throughout, and you got to get great production from everybody 1 through 15. And we saw an example of what the Suns can do in the bubble, going 8-0, and I think they want to ride that euphoria into this season and have an opportunity to finally make the playoff.
Really cool to have Eddie Johnson on the show, and I think, Jeff, he really wants the Suns to make the playoffs. So give me a pick that's going to help Eddie sleep better at night.
Listen, and they were very close, and this pick could determine whether they take that next jump. Obviously, they've got Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Ricky Rubio. What do they need? They need a big, strong wing, and I know this is a kid that Cam absolutely loves, and that's Patrick Williams out of Florida State. Don't look at the numbers. He only averaged about 9 points and 4 rebounds on a deep and loaded Florida State team, but he is a man-child. I'm not going to say he's Kawhi Leonard yet, and neither is Cam, but at the look of him, he's a guy who plays hard, big-time athlete, strong, can really, really guard multiple positions as well.
All right, I like it, Jeff. Now, I know Florida State's supposed to be a football school. When do they become a basketball powerhouse, Jeff? How are they churning out these type of prospects?
Because Leonard Hamilton can recruit. He's been at it a long, long time. And on the list of top recruiters in college basketball, it starts with Mike Krzyzewski, then John Calipari, After that, I would go Leonard Hamilton at number 3. Wow. They've plugged a lot of players in lately and developed guys in addition to getting guys that are highly rated.
All right, looks like the Suns might have got a really good one out there in the Valley of the Sun. 10 picks down, 4 to go. Here are the best players available, according to our very own Brandon Williams. Look at some of the names on there. You get some shooters, Neesmith and Bay. So will they be going in the lottery? What about Patrick Williams' teammate, Devin Vassell? He's still on the board. He's a top remaining prospect. So will the Spurs snatch him at 11? Or will he fall out of the lottery? Stick around to find out. Welcome back to the Inside the Association Mock Draft Special. Now, it's been a while since the Spurs finished the season in the lottery. Got to go back to 1997 in April. Now, that, if you might recall, kicked off with a first-ever episode of Pokemon. A 21-year-old kid named Tiger Woods was the youngest ever to win the Masters, and Can't Nobody Hold Me Down by Puff Daddy and Mace was the #1 song that month. Who could forget that? The Spurs, by the way, ended up drafting some kid named Tim Duncan in the draft. I think that worked out. Here's Sean Elliott on what the Spurs are looking for in this draft at 11.
Whoever we get at 11 is going to have to contribute right away. Obviously, our team is trying to go younger. You saw the way we played in the bubble, played a lot of the young guys. We invested in the future. And so you have to believe that whoever comes in at 11 has to be pretty much ready to play right away. Now, you know, we're not talking about a franchise chain player at 11. I don't know if that's out there. Whoever we pick has to be ready to play now. They're going to have to pick up the system pretty quickly, and they're going to have to integrate well with the young guys. So you need a big-time player now. And I'm sure the Spurs are on top of it. I know that, you know, I can just tell you this. You can't pick a player right now that you can afford to stash overseas like we've done with other guys in the past. Whoever comes over now has got to play. He's got to be ready to play right now.
All right, thanks to Sean Elliott for joining the show here. And Cam, when you look at the Spurs, I know Tim Duncan isn't walking through that door. They're not used to drafting in a position like this in the lottery. Who is walking through that door for Coach Pop?
Well, it's not Sean Elliott. He's not walking through that door. No. Dave, I think who walks through that door is Devin Vassell. This is a young man that shot just over 40% from 3 in his 2 seasons at Florida State. So, yes, Jeff Goodman and I are going back-to-back Seminoles that Leonard Hamilton produced out of that program. This is a guy that will be able to fit easily into that offense for Greg Popovich. 6'7", can knock down threes, space the floor, and he moves so well without the basketball.
All right, let's see if he is a plug-and-play guy for Pop next year. Now, the Spurs finally missed the playoffs for the first time in an NBA record 23 seasons. It just doesn't happen. Now, the Kings, they're on the other end of that spectrum. Sacramento has missed the playoffs for 14 straight seasons. The Suns are the only other team that is currently in double digits. Ouch. So, Jeff Goodman, I give you the task of trying to make this a playoff team, maybe with this pick at 12. I mean, the history of this franchise is the history. Good young pieces. Give me another piece.
Listen, I'm not a magician. I can't just make them a playoff team with one pick. What I can do is help them. And helping them is a guy named Aaron Neesmith out of Vanderbilt. Devin Vassell is a terrific shooter from 3. Neesmith is the best three-point shooter in this draft. And we don't know the status of Buddy Hield. Obviously, he's a terrific young player, but the question will be, can Aaron Neesmith come in, make shots from the perimeter? He's also a good defender. Only played half the season last year at Vanderbilt, but that was plenty, even with an injury, for the NBA scouts to see enough of him, to love his game and his versatility, but more than anything, his ability to really rise up and shoot it from deep.
All right, so Jeff, you sold me on the fact that he's going to be an NBA shooter. Give me an NBA comp that you see for his game.
Listen, I mean, again, he's similar to Buddy Hield in a lot of ways. Buddy's a little bit better off the bounce, but to me, is Buddy's future long-term in Sacramento? If it's not, you got a guy that can step right in, play with De'Aaron Fox, with Harrison Barnes. You've got Marvin Bagley, who's an emerging player as long as he stays healthy. They've got some young talent there. They just got to kind of keep adding some of those high-character young players.
All right, just noting it now, Cam. Jeff Goodman, not a magician. Good information as always. 12 picks down, only 2 to go. So here are the best available players on the board. According to our very own Brandon Williams, you see a lot of point guards on there. only 2 can say they were drafted in the lottery. Who's it going to be? Stick around to find out. Wrapping up the lottery here on the Inside the Association mock draft special. New coach Stan Van Gundy has a lot of toys to play with in New Orleans. Here's a look at the Pelicans' projected starting lineup entering year number 2 of the Zion Williamson era. For more on the Pellies, here's Team TV analyst Antonio Daniels on what the team can expect from the newest edition.
Now, we have to understand the draft is on the 18th. And understand, from the 18th through December 1st, you are talking about in essence of 2 weeks. That's the amount of time that rookies now have to get accustomed to everything that we just talked about that normally takes 3 to 4 months. So I think whoever you draft, you have to expect him to be somewhat behind the 8 ball. But with all that being said, with the core group of these guys returning, maybe this is a guy that you draft and he gets an opportunity, especially when this season starts, to learn through vision. You know, maybe he doesn't pick up things as quickly. Maybe he doesn't understand the defensive rotation, which is what a lot of rookies struggle with even after 3 or 4 months of preparation. So let alone 2 to 3 weeks of preparation. So maybe this is a guy that gets an opportunity to learn by watching J.J. Redick, or learn by watching Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson or Josh Hart or Drew Holiday or some of these other guys. There are 2 ways to learn. One way is through vision and the other way is through experience. It's tough to be thrown right into the fire off the jump with such a small turnaround. So maybe learning through vision is the best way to start the season. And then who knows how quickly he picks up the concept as the season moves along.
Back here in our Chicago studios with Cameron Smith and Jeff Goodman in Boston. Gentlemen, you heard Antonio Daniels. Basically a cautionary tale. This has been a bizarre offseason for everybody involved. So when you look at the Pellies here, Cam, what's the right way to go?
Well, they have a lot of holes that they don't need to fill as opposed to other teams that are drafting in the lottery. And this is a Pelican squad that has scoring, they have defense, they have young guys that they can really hang the hats on. But I think they go with Tyrese Maxey at this position, a guard that can score the basketball at Kentucky, averaged nearly 14 points a game in his freshman season. So I think he will be the pick for New Orleans at 13.
Yeah, this appears to be a young, exciting team. They get a little bit younger here with Maxey coming in. Do you think he sees playing time right away?
I don't think he sees playing time right away, but he's one of those guys that he's going to be really ingratiated into that offense, ingratiated into that franchise, because they're going to string him along and make sure that he's learning the proper way so that when his time comes, he's able to contribute.
All right, the pick is in. Tyrese Maxey goes 13 to the Pellies. The Celtics have the last pick in the lottery because of a trade with the Grizzlies. Boston is on the heels of their 3rd conference finals appearance in the last 4 seasons. So, who they take at 14, they have a very tough time to crack that rotation. Here's our front office insider, Brandon Williams, on what the Celtics are looking for.
Well, the Celtics' biggest need at this stage are young players that have a pathway to success. I mean, when you look at the depth chart, they're kind of thin at the wing spot. I mean, they've got versatility. In that they've played Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Gordon Hayward together. But I think as you find your way maybe out of Hayward over the next year and move Jason Tatum into sort of more permanent 3 or full-time 3, there's opportunity for them to get someone who could stretch the floor, work with those guys, give them an additional asset on the perimeter as a shot maker, 4th, 5th option. It certainly does not clog the paint up for their drivers and their driving attack. So I'd look for somebody that can help them space the floor. I don't know that you get a high usage or high minute player at 14, but they might get lucky in case someone falls. And if not, just find somebody who's more plug and play since they're ready for an Eastern Conference Finals.
All right, gentlemen, we've come to the end. The last pick here in our mock draft. Jeff, you're in Boston. Make the pick for the hometown Celtics.
You know what Danny Ainge likes? Multi-dimensional forwards. You know what Brad Stevens likes? Guys who can shoot the ball from 3. Saddiq Bey of Villanova does both of those things. He's 6'8". He's not a great athlete, but guys coming out of Villanova, they know how to play the game, and that's what Saddiq Bey is. He does everything well, nothing fantastic other than shoot the ball from deep, which he did great as a sophomore on the main line. So Saddiq Bey comes in and gives them a much-needed guy who can shoot the ball consistently from the perimeter along with Jason Tatum.
Yeah, absolutely love that pick for the Celtics there. Jeff, great stuff. Very quickly, Cam, do you have a guy that we have not picked so far in the mock draft lottery that you really like?
Of course, Dave. And that guy is Cole Anthony. I mean, this is a guy that can score the basketball. And what is today's NBA? It's all about the point guard and scoring the basketball. That's something that he will be able to transition into easily when he makes the pros.
See, there still is other talent outside of the lottery. Great stuff as always. Cameron Smith right here in Chicago. Jeff Goodman in Boston. Thank you for watching this edition of Inside the Association, the Mock Draft Special.